first time this season, your Baltimore Ravens have clawed their way back to above 500 football, 6-5, winners of 5 straight games, including today at the bank, where it had been a long time since the last time they played. They find a way to win ugly over the Jets, Sarah. It's going to be a short week, obviously, with the Bengals coming to town and a Thursday Thanksgiving primetime slate. We'll get there when we get there. They've gotten the job done. And while the last month plus has been winning ugly, they have won, and they have successfully dug themselves out of the hole. And right now, as you see in the title, they are atop the AFC North division. Both Pittsburgh and Baltimore 6-5. The whole tiebreaker situation, if it were to end today, would be in favor of the Ravens, given how they've dominated the division thus far. And that is where we begin today, Sarah. This is a team that's found a way. By the way, welcome back. It's been a busy week in your life. Great to have you back inside the vault, and great to have everybody with us tonight for one of our post-game instant reactions. It's brought to you by our friends at Mantis Sleep. Good to see you, partner.
It's so good to see you. It is so good to see you. I can't even, man, there was a lot that came up this week. We knocked it all down as a family. I'm so happy about that. We'll reveal more about that some other time. Now's not the time, but I just want to say, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, as we go into Thanksgiving on Thursday, when I say my prayers of gratitude, you are one of the people at the top of my list. Thank you for freeing me up this week to get done what me and my family needed to get done. I feel so relieved as I sit here Sunday evening with another Ravens win, 5 straight, and getting done what we needed to get done. So thank you for being a phenomenal business partner and having my back. So appreciate you, and I appreciate this win. You called it an ugly win. I think that's fair. A lot of people calling that. I call it a sleepy win. It was definitely sleepy. Didn't feel like there was ever any sense of urgency. It was just like the first half was, pretty darn boring. Nothing much going on. And the Ravens have just morphed into, for now, this second half team where it's nice that you know that they can adjust. It's nice that you know that they can make the moves that they need to do to come out in the second half and put teams away. That seems to be the opposite of who they were last year, where they would dominate and then figure out how to lose in the waning minutes, which they started to do at the beginning of the year, and they transformed into this. So they're going to need to play better as they start to head into the AFC North gauntlet. But the good news is they took care of business. Doesn't matter if they were sleepy in the first half. Second half, we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson's health. That's obviously impacting things, especially on offense. The defense continues to get things done since the Ravens have made trades. People have come back from injury. They are taking care of business. And that is why right now, as the Steelers have trailed off and are not taking care of business, that the Ravens are atop the AFC North, which means if the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs. They would be in the wild card round. And that's what's most important. Health is going to have to be checked going forward. The win is a win. And now they are atop the AFC North. And I have a hunch if Lamar Jackson gets healthy throughout this final stretch as they get into the AFC North, they will be fine when they hit the playoffs, but they need that health. That's why for now, celebrate the win and celebrate being atop the AFC North, because the Ravens have come so far from where they were when they started out 1-5.
Lamar was asked about that exactly, point blank, matter of fact, at his post-game press conference within the last hour or so. We'll get to that in just a bit. But as it relates to, celebrating in the present, if you will, they are atop the AFC North. There was no Aaron Rodgers today for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chicago has won 8 of 9 games under their first-year head coach, Ben Johnson, and second-year quarterback, Caleb Williams. 31-28 was the final there. And then it's really been quite the conversation as you look at all the quarterbacks really in this division. Joe Burrow, after being, I think, a full participant, if not, I can't remember if it was the entire week for Cincinnati coming back from that toe procedure earlier on in the season, but it sure looked like he was going to give it a go or try to give it a go today. Couldn't. And so the Bengals, as a result, fall to New England. So Cleveland's playing as we speak right now in Vegas. Shedeur Sanders lightening it up early in that game, but obviously they're not really a conversation piece in this division, having really struggled through the first 10 plus weeks. But again, the AFC North is up for grabs right now. Ravens are in the driver's seat with everything in front of them. And John Harbaugh was asked about that postgame.
Feels great, but it's just it's halfway done. It's not over. Season's not over. Game wasn't over. Season's not over. And we play four. We play the Steelers twice, and we play the Bengals twice in the next few weeks. So that's going to be it right there. And starting Thursday night, we've got no time really to rest. We've got to go to work on the Bengals, and we know what that's like. So how challenging that is. So we're ready. We'll be ready to go.
Hey, John, speak.
And as the graphic suggests right here, not suggests, I mean, it just straight up states, yeah, this is a division that right now is, I mean, the Ravens are in pole position to control their own destiny, especially with some of the injuries. And they got their own fair share as well. We'll talk about Kyle Hamilton. We'll ask Lamar, or at least beat reporters on the scene, asked him specifically about how he's feeling. Did not look like himself for yet another game in terms of the mobility aspect of some of his greatness. We'll get to that in just a bit. But Cincinnati, of course, comes to town on a short week. We've already mentioned that a couple times, Sarah. And it looks like T. Higgins was knocked out of the game today with a concussion. So that'll be something to watch moving forward. And at 3-8 right now, does it make sense for them to bring Joe Burrow back? These are questions that they're going to have to answer between now and Thursday night. But the bottom line is they got the job done. And they did so in a variety of ways, particularly defensively, much as they've done, Sarah, throughout this 5-game winning streak. By the way, the group from a special team standpoint and defense over that 5-game span has created 10 turnovers. And going into today, that was tied for first league-wide. On top of that, they've played such clean offensive football. What I mean by that is from a turnover standpoint. Obviously, they have a lot of drag. They've stalled in the red zone. They've had drops. Lamar doesn't look himself. I'm talking about protecting the football, though, and playing strong second halves, as you alluded to earlier on. And so when I say winning ugly, sometimes, that those are realities of winning ugly, and that's where they find themselves entering week 13.
And if you wonder, entering week 13, if this is a temporary stay atop the division, or is it something that will be long lasting? Well, we've looked at the numbers all season. We've been looking about how Kalshi or other, like up on the screen we have right now, the New York Times and their playoff simulator. Everybody has been saying from the moment that from really when the Ravens were 1-5, 2-5, 3-5, they just kept having the Ravens with better odds over the Steelers and the rest of the field of the AFC North. And now, as they just picked up this win, they are now 89% chance of winning this division. So are they here to stay? The numbers suggest 89% chance that they are here to stay and 11% chance that they won't. So I don't anticipate the Ravens will go undefeated in the division. John Harbaugh said it. He said it. He's like, listen, we did what we needed to do to put ourselves back in a position where we're competing, we're breathing, we're now fighting from the top spot. And so now people are going to be coming after the Ravens. It's so much better to be, fighting from a second position spot, but now you're the top dog again. And so he knows we play the Steelers twice. We play the Bengals twice. That's what's still ahead. And he said, that's it right there. That's what's going to decide it. I feel good about the Ravens' chances as long as Lamar Jackson is healthy, which right now he's not, even though he says he is.
Yeah, there's a big if when it comes to that. And as we've watched, it's funny. It's like you may be watching today's game and think, man, Lamar looks unrecognizable. And I think you'd be right. But it's also like, is that any different than really the last month plus? That doesn't mean that he hasn't had tremendous performances throwing the football and strong second halves and strong hookups with Zay Flowers, as we saw in the second half. But there's just something missing with that extra gear, the decisiveness, the mobility, the willingness, even at times today, to tuck it and run. We'll get into that in just a bit. Right now, for those of you not watching in real time, the 4:00 games have just begun. So keep that in mind when you listen or look at this graphic provided by CBS Sports. New England beat Cincinnati today. So the Patriots are 10-2 under Mike Vrabel in year one. Unbelievable, way ahead of schedule. The Ravens will have to see them coming up in the next month or so. Denver 9-2. Indianapolis fell to Kansas City in a game that the Chiefs really had to have, Sarah, to keep their season afloat. So right now, the division leaders, as you've already kind of heard here, the Ravens are one of them. New England would be the top overall seed and earn that bye right now if the postseason were to begin. Denver, Indianapolis, and Baltimore would round out your division winners. Wild card teams, as of right now, the Chargers at 7-4, same thing with the Bills. Jacksonville at 6-4, and then in the hunt are a bunch of teams that are 6-5, or in Miami's case, 4-7. Obviously, they're not mathematically out of it. They got to dig themselves out of a pretty tall task here. But Pittsburgh, Houston, and Kansas City, Sarah, all 6-5, and the Texans, as you maybe saw in the midst of a busy week, put a licking and a beating on the Buffalo Bills in Houston on Thursday night. So again, this is starting to take shape in a bunch of different ways. You've got the Kansas Cities of the world that are just hanging around, kind of lurking in the hunt, playing imperfect football, but finding a way to win games. Buffalo's treading water right now. They don't have a ton of a protection for Josh Allen, and he's struggling mightily. And then, of course, the umbrella overall of this, for our concern, is just the Ravens finding ways to win games over the last month plus.
So I do want to get into Lamar Jackson a little bit deeper. Are we ready for that, or do we want to do a read and some quick super chats?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the latter. Appreciate you guys for being with us tonight. Manta Sleep is our official post-game title sponsor, as you may have heard throughout this season so far. And with the holiday season coming up, hope you guys will give them a try because we got a discount code for you. It's VAULT10. And what are they running here for Black Friday? Let's see. Want to stay one step ahead for Black Friday? Yes. But for the purpose of this read, I'm just going to go ahead and press X. VAULT10. That's VAULT. Will get you 10% off. Then, look, you got a limited time offer as well for the early Black Friday, early Black Friday sale. It's 15% off site-wide. So on top of that, you can use our discount code, and you're cooking with grease, as Roquan says. VAULT10 gets you 10% off. You know the masks by now. They got a bunch of new drops, and they all give you the following. 100% blackouts for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort built in. Zero pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes. Advanced materials and ventilation for unmatched breathability. The Sound Mask New Gen just dropped recently. I've had the Manta Sleep Mask Pro as my OG, and I don't sleep without it. You've got the Silk and the Sleep Mask as well, which are a couple of the initial drops. And look at all the different options that you have here as well when you can toggle and sift through their website. Sleep earplugs maybe for your travels, or maybe you want to get some sleep in on a red eye, whatever it might be this holiday season. Mantasleep.com's got it all for you. The white noise machines are great options as well to enhance your sleep. And Sarah and I want to continue to say thank you to Manta Sleep, one of our longest standing sponsors here inside the Vault, for supporting the program. Let's get us some super chats, partner, and I'll let you kick it off with Tristan.
Tristan says, with all his injuries, it feels like we are getting a sneak peek at what future Lamar in 4 to 5 years after his prime will look like. I don't know that I'd go that far, but I hear you.
Ty Down, says, praying Kyle Hamilton will play Thursday and the team gets healthy. John Harbaugh did note, and I think we already alluded to this, but Kyle Hamilton does not have a serious injury. Both he and Taven Bryan, interior defensive player for them up front, hobbled off. So those will be 2 injuries to watch coming up this week. Dave is here.
He says LJ is playing just fine. The offensive line stinks, he says. Well, I think 2 things are true at once.
Captain Hard says, last 3 games have shown me just how close we are to the bad teams and the good ones. 3 straight games, no touchdowns in the first half. I'm looking at Todd and the offensive line. Douglas says, glad to see you too. And that feeling's always mutual. Great to see you, or great to see your name and face always rocking your Vault hat there. Douglas, hope you're great. Mike from Hawaii is here.
Says, we get stomped out by legit contenders and are barely beating the scrubs. Are we really as good as we think we are? Hashtag Fa'alele gotta go. Hashtag in 8 we trust.
We're about to find out over the closing 6 weeks, 4 of which are divisional opponents, New England and a trip to Lambeau. The ones that are outside of those division matchups should be really, really fun over the next month plus. Laney says, the first half was pretty dicey, but they got it done. I think they can win on Thursday night. Rafike is celebrating 7 months with us, and he writes, King in the North for the time being. Yes, they are. Brian Walters is here with us tonight.
Still cautiously optimistic, he says, but ugly wins don't bode well for when we have to handle the Steelers and possibly compete in the playoffs. Fix Lamar, he says.
Captain says, would love if y'all can see if Coach can do an extended tape on Lamar in the offense. Is it Lamar, the wide receiver scheme, or line? It all looks bad. I'm really nervous. We're going to get to all that and more based on our in-game observations today, Captain, in just a bit. And, of course, we would love to have Coach Derrick Coleman back on the program. He was great, Sarah, when we had him on. I had him on while you were out on Tuesday, and he, as always, he brings it. And speaking of bringing it, it's certainly nice to see this familiar face back in our live chat. It's our guy and the king of he's the king of a lot of things, but I'm going to go with just simply Eric Hill is back with us tonight with a 50 burger.
The king of positivity. He says, cue Ma the meatloaf. That's for you, Bobby. He says, in case no one tells you today that they love you, just know that I do. Decent win, he calls it. We're winning ugly, which is good. Just want to say I'm thankful for the Vault fam. Happy Thanksgiving. Hashtag stop the 22. Hashtag I'm thankful for the Voltrons. Hashtag we hashtag one. And Eric, I think I can speak for all of the Voltron family that we are grateful for you.
What I was wanting to spit out was essentially you're the king of your community. That's what you are. Mr. Selfless. It's great to have you back, Eric. And thank you for the membership gift as well. If you guys are interested in doing the same, you can click on the option that you have if you're in the YouTube space. If you'd like to become a Voltron, or in Eric's case, gift Voltron channel membership. Thanks, Eric, and thanks to everybody who's with us at the moment. Over 1,700 concurrents and growing. Let's continue to get that number north and north and north. Dark Thunder brings us back to content, and he writes, give EDC his flowers for the Jones and Gilman trades, in parentheses, Aloha I can't tackle, Alohi. Oh, shoot. Mike,
Alohi.
help me out in the live chat. What is it?
It's Alohi.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
77 also got booed at the end of the game. The offensive line is holding us back. Thanks to Dark Thunder. Let's get back to the content, partner.
Yeah, so obviously Lamar, for the second game in the row, maybe more than that, is not playing up to the MVP standard that we're used to seeing him play. His final numbers, he was just 13 of 23, 153 yards. He had no touchdowns. To your point, he had no interceptions. He just had 76.9 quarterback rating. Didn't add a lot on the ground. Bobby, he definitely was off target. We can think about the the sick move that DeAndre Hopkins made to get wide open in the end zone, and he was open. Lamar and DeAndre have connected on those passes early in the season. Lamar way overthrew him, so he's off there. He seemed off target on many other throws. I think he threw one behind Mark Andrews at one point, although Mark Andrews also dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone. I mean, that was right in his hands. Luckily, the Ravens on fourth down scored anyway with running back Derrick Henry. And so there were times, Bobby, especially in the first quarter, where it looked like Lamar had at least a 10-yard lane, maybe 20, could have picked up a touchdown. There's another time where he went to bounce out, but he didn't really want to put his foot in the ground and really try to run. So he just cut up a little bit more up the middle. And I think if he were healthy, he'd bounce outside and get the first down. He just obviously isn't playing like Lamar Jackson. And we know why. He had the hamstring injury, was out for 3 to 4 weeks there. He had the knee injury where he missed the first week of practice 2 weeks ago. And then the ankle popped up. He missed the first day of practice on Wednesday this week. His ankles were taped up. Maybe he could do more if he really wanted to. I mean, it was the Jets. I think he seemed patient within his injuries. It's not like he needed to put on the Superman cape. It was just about playing clean football with the defense playing so well, knowing the Jets aren't going to score too much. And so I feel like if he needed to give a little bit more, he could have, but he's clearly not himself. Although LJ's not going to admit that. Here's a slew of questions about his health after the game.
Has there been a game yet since you've come back from injury where you kind of feel like, okay, I'm fully myself, I'm fully healthy, I'm fully ready to compete the way we've seen you compete over the last few years?
I can't call it, but I'm out there, so I feel like I should still be able to do what I do.
How much did the ankle bother you at all today? I mean, I know it was obviously taped up a good bit, but did it hinder you at all?
No, it was pretty solid. You know, for the most part, it was pretty solid.
So Lamar, do you feel injuries are holding you back or holding this offense back in a way because you're not able
No,
to?
no, I don't think that at all. You know, I feel like we just need to execute. You know, a lot better. We get in great field position, but we're not putting points on the board. You know, that have nothing to do with no injury. We just need to put points on the board right there.
I can't imagine how frustrating it was to go into the half, Sarah, 0 for 5 on third down. They just were not moving the ball effectively. Of course, they were 0 for 1 in the red zone in that first half. But yet, as we've already alluded to, much like they have throughout this win streak, after kind of scuffling the first 2 quarters, you come out, you get Zay Flowers involved in space, you start running the football effectively. Todd Monken makes halftime adjustments. By the way, they have not scored an opening drive touchdown since September against the Chiefs. That's typically when they're at their best in scripted format. It's been terrible there to start off games. So, but that's been the formula of late. Don't know if that's going to have an expiration date on it over the next 6 weeks against stiffer competition, if you will. But for now, it's working, and you hope that they can get some of that corrected. As I take a look, and of course, just in response to Lamar handling this, of course he's going to say what he said there. He's been talking like that much throughout this banged up state that he's clearly in. You know, you referenced the DeAndre Hopkins double move. By the way, 33-year-old DeAndre Hopkins still creating separation, still showing that he's such a technician as a route runner and always a reliable pair of hands on third down. I mean, I feel like it's been such a small sample size this year, but I feel like 95% of what DeAndre's done has led to either the extension of drives and or like key moments that has allowed them to win football games kind of gradually. So good for him. He's been a great pickup for them as a savvy wide receiver. As for Lamar, you know, you mentioned a couple different things. First of all, Mark Andrews had a drop in the red zone, in the end zone, which would have went down as a Lamar Jackson touchdown pass. He's got to make that. I think he'd tell you that. Yeah, there was a lot going on there and a bang play, but I think, you know, 89 being 89, he's got to find a way to haul that in. Some of the unwillingness in space or seeing said space and opting not to tuck it and run is really jarring. It's strange. And I shouldn't say it's strange. We know why, as you already said. He's banged up, man. I would not be surprised if he's nowhere near even like 80% out there. And yet, as we kind of heard from Aaron Glenn this week, the Jets head coach, you'll take 80% Lamar Jackson over most. And they've luckily been able. Gosh, I tell you what, after that first half, and I didn't tweet it because I felt like they were going to come out and do what they do in the second half, and they did. But I honestly, what crossed my mind after the first 2 quarters was, it's admirable what Lamar was attempting to do out there today. But should they have thrown Tyler Huntley out there? I mean, that's how bad it was through the first 2 quarters, whether it was his health or some of the issues offensively or some of the play calling that clearly Todd Monken has his hands tied on, I think, when it comes to what Lamar has right now.
Yeah, you're not the only person that was asking that question, even though you kind of kept it to yourself for a minute or whatever, because I saw a lot of those comments on my Twitter feed. And my view is absolutely not. My view is if he's cleared by trainers, and you need both, cleared by trainers, and Lamar Jackson says that he can be out there, then I want Lamar. I want 70% Lamar Jackson over 100% Tyler Snoop Huntley. 70% Lamar Jackson is still a clean football player as he was today. He still commands attention from the opposing defenses. And when he did need to turn on the Jets, like he did in that first drive, I think coming out in the second half, like he turned it on a little bit more. Again, I don't think he was pushing himself too much throughout the game, especially in that first half. And so I hear you. Sometimes you need to save players from themselves, but I think that Lamar's pretty good at distinguishing, and he's pretty judicious in knowing when he can and can't go. In fact, there are times when he hasn't gone and people say, oh yeah, he's trying to stick it to John Harbaugh, or people from opposing fan bases will say he quit. No, I think Lamar Jackson knows his body pretty well. And I don't know what percentage he's at, but if Lamar says he can be out there, I will always take Lamar Jackson on the field. Especially with, what I don't like, however, Bobby, are all these sacks he's taking. So last year, he finished the year with let me make sure I have this right. I'm pretty sure it's 23 sacks. Yeah, 23 sacks. Well, today, coming into this game, he already tied that number. And today he added more sacks to it. And so he's officially through, what week are we? This is week 11? Through
This
week
is 12.
11? This is week 12. So through week 12, he surpassed all the sacks he took last year. But he's taken more in the past. I think his high, was 2021 with 38. And 2023, he took 37. So last year was a pretty clean year. Tied for the second least, throwing out his rookie year because he didn't play the entire season. So last year was really good, but this year is bad, and he does need more protection. I do feel like he had when he dropped back to pass. I'm not so fond of the run push that the offensive line is getting, but there were a few times where it was like, okay, this one Lamar maybe held on to the ball a little long, and that's where the sack came from or whatnot. And he didn't really, maybe isn't feeling his best to scramble or whatnot. But my eye continues to be on Emory Jones. He was not inactive today. It was Ben Cleveland who was inactive in pregame warmups, according to reports. He was starting at left. He was playing at left guard, which again, I'm sure everybody wishes that was right guard. But both guard positions has been a problem. And so I'm hoping if Lamar Jackson can get through this Thanksgiving game, and the offense I feel like is going to need to score more. The defense has had 6 straight games where they've given up less than 20 points. That's going to be tough to do against the Bengals, whether it's Joe Burrow or Joe Flacco. The last time I saw reports in the Athletic from the Bengals beat reporters, it seemed like he is eyeing the Thanksgiving game. He didn't try to come back this week to make sure he was healthy. Like 5 days is too much to turn around when you're coming off of injury like that. We'll see what happens with T. Higgins. But the Bengals' defense is their weakness, not their offense. And so it makes me a little bit nervous with the way how few points the offense has been putting up. But if the Ravens can pull off this win, then Lamar Jackson will get himself a mini bye with those 10 days off. That's clearly what he needs. I appreciate how admirable he is in saying, oh, yeah, I can't call it. Like, if I'm out there, I should play well. Like, the ankle's not hindering me. That's what you have to say. So he's telling something to my ears that his actions are not telling my eyes. It's not matching up. He clearly isn't himself, but if they can pull out a win Thursday night and he can get that mini bye, and maybe Emory Jones can come in and take one of these guard spots, then we might be cooking for something above what we've been seeing. Even though they've been winning, to one of the Super Chat's point, they're going to need more when they play tougher teams.
There were also some operational flaws today. He and Tyler Linderbaum seemed to be out of rhythm at times with the snap and some of the handling that comes along with the snap. There were at least 2 bobbled snaps. Unclear whether or not that was more on Tyler versus Lamar and their cadence. But I had a note on that. I thought that, and this is sort of continuing with the season-long trend since he came back, Isaiah Likely and Lamar continue to be out of sync. And let me be clear let me just add a little bit of context to that since he came back. When Isaiah came back, Lamar immediately exited for multiple weeks with his hamstring. So not only is Isaiah trying to come back from his foot procedure at the end of the summer, but as soon as he comes back, his quarterback leaves with his own injury. So it's been tough to get those guys on the same page just in terms of the continuity and the reps and health for both of those players. But 2 for 11 on third down, Sarah, including 0 for 5 in the first half it was a rough watch. Whether you want to call it a snooze fest or an ugly win, whatever it was, they found a way. But my goodness, was this offense just not executing at the rate that we've grown accustomed to seeing, not over the course of the last month plus, but over the years. Finished in terms of overall statistics here, just 241 yards of offense. That's 4.2 yards per play. It helps when you don't turn over the football. They've been clean throughout this process. No turnovers today. They won the time of possession battle by a little less than 3 minutes. And ultimately, it was good enough. I mean, they were 2 for 2 on fourth down, including one real gutsy call there from John Harbaugh in the first half where they were backed up deep in their own territory. And he says, you know what? I'm going for it. Whether it's the analytics or not, I'm going for it. And didn't have to pay the price on that one, did he?
Man, no. And like those were some Those were some gutsy calls for John Harbaugh because the offense wasn't doing well on third down. It wasn't doing well on short yardage situations. And so the one where they called the timeout and then they come back on, it's like, okay, here we go. They're going to do the tush push. And then they got plenty of push, like Tyler Linderbaum led the way. And then the second one where they caught the Jets trying to substitute to match what the Ravens had, and they were able to run it in with Derrick Henry. Like, if it weren't for them being unsettled, I don't know how much confidence I would have. How many times have we seen Derrick Henry try to get in at the goal line and it hasn't happened? And so it was like, whew, those fourth down calls were gutsy. He obviously made the right call because they were able to convert. With how bad they were on third down, they needed 4 downs to be able to keep some drives going for sure. So you got to like tip your hat to John Harbaugh on those because it, like, obviously the touchdown was key. The other fourth down, it ended up they had to punt a little bit again later. But if they had not gotten it, they could have put themselves in a really bad position.
Harbaugh was asked about Lamar to kind of wrap things up on the status of Lamar in this moment health-wise. And, you know, he was asked specifically about how confident he is that Lamar is going to have a chance to return to playing at his, you know, normal MVP level. And as you transcribed here on Twitter, Harb's quote, "I have the utmost confidence in Lamar Jackson, and I always will. He's my guy. He's our QB. Lamar's doing what he needs to do. He's winning football games. The pretty games will be there for Lamar. You can bet on that, but I'm proud of him right now. I'm really proud of the way he's fighting to win football games." I know that caught my attention. Fighting to win football games just leads me to believe that based on what we're watching with our own eyes, that Lamar is quite literally fighting through to win football games. And I think, you know, ultimately that is admirable. And you hope that, as you already pointed out, if you can get through this game cleanly, physically, coming up on Thursday night against a divisional opponent, even though that divisional opponent has 8 losses and has its back up against the wall, then you give yourself, you know, a 10-day chunk to get ready for your next game. So,
and I'll just say, Bobby, like, these things, life happens in clusters. That's just how life works. It's never like, oh, we'll have an injury, then we'll have some like a nice easy period and nice healthy, and then an injury. Like, things happen in clusters. He's now had 3 injuries in a row, clusters, all to his lower body. He's eventually due to get healthy again. He's eventually going to get there. Rashad Bateman will come back again. We'll see what happens with Emory Jones. And so even though the offense has been lackluster over the last several weeks, let's not forget that they put up over 40 points against the Bills. Let's not forget that before Lamar went down, he was leading the league in touchdown passes. Like, they can get back to that. At some point, I think these cluster injuries are going to end for him. And as they do, him, and by default, because he will get better, the offense will get better. And as long as the defense can stay afloat and they can do this together, they can look like a much more formidable playoff team.
We're going to get to that defense in just a bit, because that group's been stacking and stacking and stacking in terms of scoring. But speaking of stacking and climbing in this case, Derrick Henry continues to do exactly that, up the all-time list in NFL history when it comes to rushing yards, passing more great, Sarah, en route to ultimately, maybe, who knows, when it's all said and done, he's going after the top overall spot in this history. But another historic day for him, passing, as you noted, 3 all-time rushers today alone, which has him sitting 12th overall all time with over 12,000 rushing yards and counting.
He is moving on up, and he's for sure going to pass Jim Brown. I don't know quite this. I pulled the screen grab somewhere in the 4th quarter. So, I mean, he's less than 50 yards away of passing Jim Brown. And so he will be number 11 next, and then he'll crack the top 10 probably at some point. I don't know the rest of the list, but maybe there's a big gap between Jim Brown and like the number 10 person. So maybe I shouldn't say that so confidently, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's all of those things. Here's what I still am having a hard time grasping. Obviously Derrick Henry, even though I feel like MVP voters were fooled last year, he is obviously over 30, and he's not Derrick Henry of his prime. That being said, is the drop off as big as it appears by the stats? And he for sure benefited, even though everybody tried to say it was Lamar who benefited from Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry and Lamar did benefit, but Derrick Henry benefited so much from Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And since Lamar has been injured for the vast majority of the season, I don't think that Derrick Henry has been able to benefit as much. And on top of it, we know the interior guard play on this offensive line has been subpar. And so I love that he put up 2 touchdowns today. I love that, they kept turning to him. He only put up 3 yards per carry. That's not going to be enough. But again, as Lamar gets healthier, these will have ripple effects. And I think Derrick Henry will have more productive games than 3 yards per carry when Lamar is doing better. But again, this offensive line will still need to be addressed. A healthy Lamar will cover up a lot of that, as he has done throughout his career. But Derrick Henry is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it's just fun to see him climb up this list. And the further he can climb, the better for the Ravens this season, because it would mean that he's playing well.
Just in case you guys were curious, I have the all-time rushing leaders
Okay.
right in front of me. So Jim Brown is up next at 12,312, as you see on the screen, for those of you watching in the YouTube space. And then to crack the top 10, you got to beat out Tony Dorsett's 12,739. So about 400 difference there between Jim Brown and Tony Dorsett. And then after that, it's Eric Dickerson up in the 13,000 range. You get up to Jerome Bettis, LaDainian Tomlinson, so on and so forth. And then Curtis Martin is where the 14,000 plus threshold begins. Adrian Peterson, and keep climbing, boy. Keep playing. Emmitt Smith, 18,355 is the all-time leader in NFL history. So Derrick's going to have to play for many more years at this pace should he want to go after the king. But that is where things stand in that category, Sarah.
Perfect. Do we have anything else on offense? Well, I do want to say this before we flip over to the defense. That Zay Flowers was a major key to jumpstarting the offense in the second half. He got lots of just big chunk yards. Let me see if I can go back to the stats. Here we go. Zay finished with 5 receptions on 6 targets, 58 yards. It felt like more than that. It just seemed like when the Ravens needed to move the ball down the field, Zay was a big part of it. You still want him to see go north and south more often than he does. Boy, is he still a jitterbug and whatnot. And he dropped 1 pass out over by the sideline, kind of like obviously thinking about his next move before he had secured it. But overall, I thought he was big. We saw Devontae Walker sighting, that 30-yard pass to Devontae. That was nice. DeAndre, man, I wish he had that touchdown pass. Oh, that was just such a good move. But he finished with 2 catches for 13 yards, but he had a very important, as he always does, 3rd down conversion. In fact, it was the first 3rd down conversion that the Ravens had after going 0 for 5. I think it was like somewhere like around the 12:55 mark in the 3rd quarter that they finally converted on 3rd down. And of course, it's DeAndre Hopkins who does it. You already mentioned Isaiah Likely. They're just still not on the same page. Isaiah can still get there. And Keaton Mitchell, man, he had, what's that?
Isaiah's not separating.
No, but he will. Like we obviously saw Mark Andrews when he had his injuries coming back. He didn't look like the Mark of old. We still have, and that's separate from like Mark dropping that 2-point conversion against the Bills, right? That's separate from what I'm talking about here, where he just he was coming back from the car crash and other injuries that he had, and he wasn't looking like Mark. And I think that might be where we're at with Isaiah. Like he's back, but he's not back. And so maybe they should be putting calling Charlie Kolar more often because of that until Isaiah can get back. But part of it is like, you just kind of need to just play through it until you are back. And so, there's not a lot of separation. There's just not a lot going on for Isaiah. Did he drop one today? Or was there one he should have had?
There were several drops. Zay had at least one. Mark Andrews obviously had one in the end zone. I think Isaiah had one.
At least one where it felt like maybe if it didn't technically count as a drop, it was just like, Isaiah probably should have had that one,
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to look in terms of how it was scored, but
yeah.
I think that could have gone either way. I will unload some other notes here as well
Okay.
offensively before we switch to the other side of the ball. If it weren't for a clear and obvious Tyler Linderbaum holding penalty on Harrison Phillips,
Mm-hmm.
Keaton Mitchell would have had a 35-yard chunk run go into the score sheet, but that was called back. But boy, did he look. He continues to be up, by the way, over Rasheen Ali in terms of the whole roster construction on game day, which should have been the case, I think, as we know, all year long. But Keaton showed some burst and vision and just that extra gear that he always seems to have now in the aftermath of. Remember, next month will be the 2-year mark since his injury, since his ACL. So as he continues to build up, you were just talking about players kind of building themselves back up, getting their regular season legs under them. Keaton sure has done that. So I had a note on that. And then, just any chance you get to build up guys that we constantly tear down, and we don't mean to tear them down. We're just talking about it from an objectively critical view. But everything worked perfectly on that fourth quarter carry, which was his second touchdown for Derrick Henry. You had Fa'alele and Rosengarten, right? Immediately do their job and get good jumps off the snap. Ricard, as usual, just as he did on the game winner in Cleveland a week ago, just absolutely, literally deletes his man. Mark Andrews does his job, and King Henry walks into the end zone untouched. Like when the offensive line up front is working and that combination is working in unison, there's nothing more beautiful than that. And when it's on fourth down, particularly what happens the play prior, and they continue to struggle in short yardage situations, it's like, man, it's so night and day at times with them. And so, salute to the way that worked for them and Todd Monken to call it, and John Harbaugh ultimately to greenlight that call on fourth down. That they knew that this game was theirs, even if it was, one ugly. And I think we're going to start in just a second after we rip through some super chats in terms of really one of the game-defining plays or momentum-shifting plays with Aaron Glenn's decision to go for it on 4th and 2 or 4th and 3 out of the half. And the Ravens defense stood tall. Tyrod Taylor didn't necessarily give his pass catcher a chance. I think it was Mechie. We'll get to that in just a bit. But should we get caught up on super chats before we do so?
Just real quick, because you're right. There was that huge change on the defensive side, but right before it, just because we're still talking about the offense, I don't know what it is about the Ravens being a second half team suddenly. Like it just, like I said, it's been such the opposite over years where the Ravens would just steamroll from people from the beginning. And then it became, they would steamroll them and then give it away at the end. But like, check out these stats of the whole entire first half versus the first drive of the second half. They had 72 total yards in the first half to 74 on the first drive of the second half. 4 first downs in the entire first half to 5 of the first half in the third quarter. 0 for 5 of third downs. We said that a few times. Then that one drive, they went 2 of 2. 0 for 1 in the red zone. They only made it once to the red zone, and they blew it in the red zone in the first half. Then they get there right away in the third quarter. 1 of 1, 3 points to 7 points on that one drive. Like, it is just, it's gotten to the point. I feel like I told you guys, I grew up a Denver Broncos fan. I just felt like I could sleep through the first 3 quarters no matter what happened. And then it'd be like, well, John Elway's like a phenomenal fourth quarter quarterback. And so we'll just wait until we get there. It doesn't matter if the Broncos are behind. That's the way I've been feeling about the Ravens over the last 3 or 4 games. Like, they're not playing well. And I'll see people on Twitter getting angry and freaking out. And I'm like, yeah, but this isn't just watch. The Ravens are different this year. Just wait until they adjust in the second half. And they've pretty much done that every game since Lamar has been back.
So the momentum shift or narrative shift is now, hey, wait till the second half in a positive way rather than, oh no, it's the fourth quarter that's quickly approaching, right? Like,
exactly.
Okay. What a world. What a world to live in. Goodness. C. Brittle gets us back in the super chat game. And C. Brittle writes, all of his injuries and frequent sacks. Let's give Lamar some grace. ADL 21 is with us tonight.
Says Linderbaum's snap issues are back and taking Keaton's biggest run off the board. Get it together, 6'4". Can't look at 77 your way out of this. Are the snaps on Linderbaum?
Well,
it just looks like just sometimes the exchanges don't go right.
Yeah, there's just Tyler's struggling this year. and I'm not
Well,
even talking
but
about.
that's a different topic. What were the snaps tonight his fault? The bobbled snaps.
Yeah, I was kind of referencing that a minute ago in terms of not necessarily like having to go back and watch the nuance
Yeah.
of those specific plays, the timing of them. They
Yeah.
said at least one of them was not accurately snapped to Lamar's breadbasket. I know that.
Yeah, where the
But
one he kind of went up to get, it also wasn't egregious. It was a little high. And then Lamar, tried to grab it with one hand, bobbled it. The one
Yeah.
that was under center, like it looked like a fine snap to me. But I can go back and look.
You know what's so funny? Even if we do dissect the all out, out of those, like sometimes are we ever really going to know true when it comes to the cadence and the timing between Tyler and Lamar that only those two know about? We can only learn so much from watching the highlights, but clearly as ADL is noting here.
I'm just saying, like where he pinpoints it on Linderbaum, it's a question in my mind.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. And then to your point, the conversation, which is a separate one, is some of the pass blocking issues. Or even run blocking issues with Linderbaum. And then you go down a whole rabbit hole of like, well, how much is that when is to his right and left, not exactly the consistent play from his teammates at the guard positions. And by the way, all of the handles switched back as you probably have seen by now, Sarah. So whatever you did on the back end, maybe a month or two ago, maybe we can find a way to get you to do that.
I never
again.
did anything. I literally haven't touched anything. It just YouTube kept changing it.
Okay. I thought,
Yeah.
all right. I misremembered that.
Yeah.
Mr. Amnesia, because this is always hilarious, right? Because the handles, we're not familiar with the handles, so we see like the profile photos, and sometimes they jog our memories in terms of who you are, but everybody's usernames are different than their handles, so it's hard for us to give you guys name recognition. So in this case, Mr. Amnesia 70, I'm not sure who you are, but thanks for the super chat. Here you go, partner.
It says defense winning games for the team. Brought back some memories. It's okay for our defense to win us some games. Happy Turkey Day to everyone. #flock on.
Well, that was the perfect segue, mister. We appreciate you because this is a defense that has now allowed less than 20 points in 6 straight games. That's the longest streak. All of a sudden, that's the longest streak in the NFL this season. And of course, yet again, Sarah, they turn the football over. They're creating takeaways, 10 total, special teams included, over this winning streak, which now is up to 5. And of course, a big one by Marlon Humphrey, who was playing far. You talk about percentage-wise health. The dude just had his finger pinned recently. John Harbaugh spoke glowingly of his play that he made in a crucial moment in the second half.
And then, of course, Lowe coming up with the ball. But Marlon, to get that ball out, I don't know how he did it because we were reeling a little bit. They had us on our heels, They were running the ball. They had made some plays. We missed some tackles. And then he comes up just huge. I mean, that to me is like that's the lion spike right there. That's the lion spike of the game right there. And then the pass.
Okay, so let's kind of go down memory lane here from earlier. The play prior, the Jets are very much still in the game, and Breece Hall rips off a 40-yard gain. I think it was a check down. I don't think it was a run, if memory serves.
He had a few chunk yards. One was 40 for sure, but there were a few plays where he was just like carving the Ravens defense up.
He was basically the only Jet, highly impactful Jet that wasn't traded in their fire sale at the deadline earlier this month. So he goes for 40 on what I think was just a dump off or a check down from Tyrod Taylor. And the amount of missed tackles on that play, starting with, and I get it, in space, it's very difficult to bring down a Breece Hall, but something that we've seen, Sarah, in a small sample size since he came to Baltimore is Alohi Gilman's issues in space with the lack of polish, angles, pursuit, right? And that was right on full display that opened up a lane and a major hole for Breece. There were other missed tackles along the way, but it began with Alohi. And so for the next play to be punched out from Breece Hall's hands as he's making his way inside the 5-yard line by Marlon Humphrey, who's hobbling out. I shouldn't say hobbling. He's dealing with the managing pain process that I'm sure is playing with a pin in your finger. And then who's there? Alohi to recover it. So you got to give him his flowers on that. But it has been multiple weeks throughout this win streak. I think Minnesota, there's some plays that come to mind where he's got to get a few things cleaned up with the polish. But ultimately, it's a massive, massive shift, momentum shifting play. Ultimately, something that allowed the Ravens to close this game out.
There are a few things that are super annoying to watch, and missed tackles are one of them. Missed tackles are one of them. Other offensive line ones are annoying too, but Okay, so to your point, so here's exactly what it is. I just went back to the drive. So Beck had one 10-yard catch. So I'm remembering that one. Then it was Brees Hall for 40, and you're right, it was a pass to him for 40. Although he started that missed tackle kind of sequence. Then there was a sack, and then it was Brees Hall again for 15 yards, and then they went to him a third time, but that's when Marlon Humphrey forced the fumble. And you're absolutely right. How crazy. I mean, this is why we call the NFL a week-to-week league. To just thinking back to when Marlon Humphrey had that interception and he didn't want to return it, and everybody's like yelling at their TV screens like, Marlon, run. What are you doing? Go do something. And he revealed later that all he was trying to do was find the cleanest way to run out of bounds because he didn't want to have his finger hit and feel like he was going to fumble it. And then here we are, cut 2 weeks later. He has the pin in his hand. He misses the one game against the Browns, which we all said this is the perfect time to do it. And he comes back and he rips that ball out. And this is why you never give up. This is why you never get deflated. You give up a 40-yard play, flush it. Look on. I don't care if you have a good play or you have a bad game. You got to flush it. That's the way it is in the NFL. Just don't ever look back and be the guy that it's like, oh, we just let them get to the 1 yard line. They're on the goal line. Watch this. Like they thought they were moving. They thought they were feeling good about themselves. They thought they were feeling themselves. They thought they had us in a place where they could put this game back in contention. Watch this. And that's what veterans do. That's what veterans like Marlon Humphrey does. And that is why today, Bobby, this week, really, he gets to make as many podcasts as he wants. Go do your podcasts, Marlo. Not that he needs our permission because he does it every week anyway. And last week, he seemed to have gotten chewed out by Lamar Jackson. Marlon Humphrey is undeterred by all of that. But at least this week he can do it and we can all feel good about it because he earned it for sure.
Again, I want to throw out this number because it wasn't all that long ago that we were, and everyone in the fan base was just begging for turnovers. They've created 10 throughout this winning streak. It's been a huge part of allowing some of the drag and the scuffling that's happening on the other side of the football to occur. They've been able to overcome some of those shortcomings from a lack of pass protection, from a lack of red zone efficiency. We can rattle off all their deficiencies, but you get the point. Between special teams impact plays, Sarah, and momentum shifting plays like Marlon's, they've been able to sustain some of the imperfect state where they find themselves offensively. And so Marlon was the latest example. But let's go back even earlier, though, as I referenced leading up to this topic, because if you can go back to Cordell's tweet right there, this may have actually been the most momentum shifting moment of the entire game. And it was a decision that I was texting with Jake Asman, who of course came on the show Friday. He missed you. He missed you dearly for our Jets Ravens topic in our overall preview episode on Friday. But I was like, dude, what was Aaron Glenn thinking? On 4th and 2 from their own 42, they went for it. And ultimately, Tyrod Taylor and Mechie, who was giving the Ravens some fits at times, John Mechie, really weren't even on the same page. And Tyrod never even gave Mechie a legitimate chance, which allowed the Ravens to take over in Jets territory. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, why are you so desperately going for it? I mean, the game was anybody's at that point. And I thought that not only for Nate Wiggins to be on the right end of that, but also start the half that way, the floodgates were open from there, and the Ravens had a stranglehold.
Absolutely. And that was like the one right after the other, right? Where the Ravens on offense came out of the gates, converted those third downs, got the touchdown. And then right afterwards, the Jets felt the pressure to be more desperate and go for it on 4th down. And man, Wiggins, like they went after him. And I don't even think, like we said, like Menchie didn't even see the ball coming because he was that blanketed by Wiggins. Like, I don't even think he had any chance of getting anywhere close to the ball, didn't know where it was because Wiggins was all over him. And I just continue to be impressed by Wiggins. He did miss an interception earlier. He should have had that pick. I think he knows it. I think like he's already gotten like playfully jabbed by his teammates for not returning picks yet into the end zone. So I don't know if he was already thinking about trying to get to the end zone or whatever, but he needed to secure that one. It could have like busted things up way earlier in the game. But I just love Nate Wiggins' progression and the moxie and the swagger and the confidence that he has to ask to travel with guys and then to come up big in that fourth down moment where like you didn't even give this guy a chance on fourth down. You didn't even give him a chance to the point that he's like, where's the ball? Where am I in this world? Like, what's going on? Well done by Nate Wiggins.
Well, you can't talk about the defense, and of course I co-sign all of that commentary, but you can't talk about the defense today without mentioning Draymond Jones, who was acquired at the deadline from Tennessee. And Sarah, until today, all he had brought to the Ravens, and I'm not discounting this whatsoever, was pressure, pressure, pressure. You want to know what it came in today? It ultimately paid off for him. Multiple sacks. 1.5 I'm seeing is the official score here. I thought it was 2 full, but it looks like it goes in as 1.5. The other was Taven Bryan, who actually left the game, as did Kyle Hamilton. So we'll have to learn more about, as we alluded to earlier on in the show, we'll have to learn more about the severity, even though John Harbaugh was clear that it's not a serious injury for Kyle Hamilton. He wouldn't go into the specifics for Taven, but he was on the other end of that half sack. Draymond had 4 total tackles, 2 of which were solo, a tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, and 2 quarterback hits. We'll have to wait and see what the pressure count ends up being. But Sarah, this is a guy who continues to bring it in an organic way for them on the edge. Kyle Van Noy is doing his job on the opposite edge. And I really like what I'm seeing from 45, man, on some 3rd and longs. Mike Green continues to show up, and he's bringing it. The statistics aren't there yet. Just 1 sack so far through his rookie year, or through his first, 11 games now as a rookie. But this is a group that, yes, there are far too many times still today where Tyrod Taylor had a cup of coffee in the pocket and a chance to go through all of his reads and progressions and so on and so forth. But when they had to bear down, they did. And a lot of that has to do with what they're getting out of 41, Sarah.
Yeah, I want to show kind of like his progression. This is showing the wrong screen. 1 second. I wanted to show his progression. Can we remove this? Add to stage. There we go. Throughout the season. Because remember when I believe you had, was it Paul Kersey on your show?
Paul Kaharski from Tennessee.
Kaharski. That's right. I remember him saying that like Draymond started like he was on a milk carton, right? Just hadn't really done much. Look at over here. I'm showing like the quarterback hits, not just the sacks, but you do have both. So you've got the sacks in this middle column, where it's just like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 through the first 5 weeks. How about quarterback hits? 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 through the first 5 weeks. Then all of a sudden he starts getting a few more quarterback hits with 2, 1, 2. And then now he's starting to get sacks where he had 1, 2, 3, and 4.5 in 4 games for Tennessee. Then the trade goes down and he starts immediately for the Ravens. Hadn't gotten any sacks in his first 2 weeks, but he had 2 quarterback hits. And now tonight he's adding 1.5 sacks. And so like his transition has felt pretty seamless. And this is exactly what the Ravens needed. And as the super chat earlier said, we have to give EDC flowers on this. There are other things that I certainly have my complaints in terms of the guard position, especially, that I'm unhappy about. But when it comes to in-season trades, EDC has a great track record. It's not perfect, but it's a really good track record. And so Alohi Gilman, as he needs to continue to stop missing tackles, he still has, we know the impact, the trickle-down effect that he has had by being able to free Kyle Hamilton. And now this, I mean, the Ravens just have gotten like no pressure outside of scheming it and manufacturing it. And so to see Draymond do that when he was like hanging on for his life to bring down Tyrod Taylor, as he's laying there and Tyrod's trying to get out of there, he's like, nope, you're going nowhere. I just think that he has been one of those underrated trades, one of those underrated moves that is having a big impact on this Ravens defense. And again, while, you know, the Ravens defense may not be able to keep the Bengals under 20, just given the firepower that they have, I don't think you can discount, 6 straight games, less than 20 points. And it all coincides with the start of these trades. And then Draymond just taking it to another level. He's having a big impact, and I don't think you can underestimate it.
I shortchanged Mike Green by a half sack. He's got 1.5 so far through 11 career games in the NFL. And, they probably should have had a couple more as a team, Sarah. I know Roquan said that himself about him personally at his post-game podium. At one point, Tyrod Taylor got away from him on a chance that they were trying to put the Jets away late in the third quarter. And I believe it was a 2nd and 11 blitz that was dialed up by Zach Orr that just didn't get home. And Roquan couldn't get Tyrod down, and he hit A.D. Mitchell for a big gain. I think it was like 20-plus yard gain. And remember, A.D. came over in the Sauce trade prior to the deadline, the Sauce Gardner trade from Indianapolis. And at times today, he got some big chunk gains on this Ravens defense. I think he finished with, let's see, A.D. had, two catches for 42 yards, one of which, the one that I'm mentioning, went for 26. But he was targeted 7 times and caught just 2 of those balls. So I remember they just benched Justin Fields. Tyrod was making his 2nd career start. I actually thought that Tyrod played well for them, gave them a chance at times, kept plays alive, used whatever his 36-year-old body has left in him in terms of the mobility aspect of it. And the Ravens got to wrap him up. An older veteran like that, they got to wrap him up more consistently. But I think the main point in bringing up what we've discussed the last couple minutes is the addition of Draymond Jones and somebody who's brought organic pressure, which they so desperately needed on the edge. And so when you're getting, opposite him, savvy play, consistent play from KVN, and Mike's just like shooting out of a cannon at times with what he can bring from an athleticism standpoint, it excites you, at least in the sense that, okay, it's a lot better than what they had, a month ago. And hopefully that bodes well for them down the stretch.
And let's not forget about Tavius Robinson. I don't know how close he is, but he was not a season ender. If you can add Tavius Robinson back on this list. While I was out, was there any news on him?
Last week was crazy. So John Harbaugh was asked in the same sentence. I think he gave updates on Tavius and Ardarius, and I think it was labeled that they were both close.
Okay. Yeah, I just
close.
Googled it. He says Tavius Robinson is right on schedule.
And Scrap is saying that I said that Tyrod had his 2nd career start today. No, his 2nd start of the season. Sorry if I don't know if I misspoke, but it was Tyrod's 2nd start of the season. But yeah, so Ardarius is coming back from the Achilles tear, of course. What was it, in a conditioning session over the summer? And so he's been seen, as he was today, in pregame warmups. He's been seen on side fields at practice, and he was seen by the beat reporters on the pregame warm-up field at the bank today.
Wait, this was Ardarius or Robinson?
Ardarius today.
Okay.
And then as far as there's no timetable on Tavius.
Okay. Yeah.
They were willing to publish
at least right. Maybe he gave a timetable when Tavius first went down. I just remember him saying that he's not out for the season. So
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. TJ Tampa got his first career interception in garbage time there to close out the win. So good for him. And let me know, Sarah. You just let me know when you're ready to transition to special teams, because you already know.
Oh, you're about to go off. Just go with your special team self. Okay, yeah, let's do that first.
This might be the best segment of the year when it comes to special teams. But Captain writes, yeah, he had a bad shotgun snap that Lamar handled. It's crazy, but I think a season like this will help with the playoffs and the woes mentally. He was referring to Tyler Linderbaum there. It's Pete06 is here.
Do we think Henry gets into the movie anyway? Yes, I do think he will get in the movie anyway.
What does he need to hit? 2,000 yards to be an Adam Sandler
which is not happening, but he'll still be in the movie. Come on now.
Did we already have this one for Mr.
Could you imagine Adam Sandler saying, no, you can't come in now, D-Hen. No, we said 2,000. No, you're out. What movie was it for?
I think it's just like a future movie, like a future Adam Sandler movie, because he just makes movies that often.
So it's not like he's going to be back with like Bobby Boucher or something. That'd be kind of fun.
All-timer. I think we had this one up earlier. So that brings us to Wes. Where the HE double hockey sticks is Carl Lawson. What's the point of signing him? Our personnel decisions are frustrating. That from Wes, Sarah. Carl was brought
they
in.
signed him before they traded for Draymond.
Yes, they did.
So I'm sure that they were just like looking for help anywhere. But I actually do have the same question. I'm not asking the question like, what's the point? I knew what the point was, but I am interested in knowing like what he's looking like behind the scenes.
I actually think David Ajabo has been showing up in some run fits, but as a pass rusher, he's pretty much non-existent and looked pretty slow at times, trying to run down 36-year-old Tyrod Taylor this afternoon. But with all this in fairness, Wes, we do know that Carl, one, would have been plucked off the practice squad by now if he was really a coveted player in the league, and he was on the couch for a reason a month ago. But I'm with you. You'd like to think that he'd be able to provide more as he did in Dallas last year than David Ajabo's given you. Thanks, Wes. So, all right. Special teams it is. Here we go. I mean, let's just let John Harbaugh start it off.
Right away is the punt team. All right, start with Jordan Stout and the punt coverage guys. That kept us in the game probably because we were backed up field position wise. We averaged a 20. We were backed up inside the 10 once or twice too. They had done a good job with their punt team, the kickoffs and all the different things. They moved the ball a couple times, and we were backed up offensively, and that made it tough against that defense. And then our punt team would bail us out and push them all the way back inside the 20. A couple times inside the 10 and even at the 5 late. I mean, that punt at the end of the game was unbelievable. So I think our punt team in a lot of ways kept us in and was the difference maker in the game. And Chris Horton deserves so much credit for that. Chris Horton has done a great job. This is a young group. That was the #1 ranked special teams in the league coming in here. And Chris Horton had those guys ready, man. He had those guys ready in every phase. And you can see how good they were, how dangerous they were on kickoff return and everything else. Got the big kickoff return to Keaton that got that scoring drive started in the second quarter. So really proud of that. I thought Chris, I just want to make sure we mentioned what a great job Chris has done with those guys. And then there's young guys, man. It's a bunch of young guys, a bunch of guys that compete and get after it and fight and practice hard every day. So proud of those guys.
Okay, so the special teams, background that John Harbaugh has. Of course, he was going to make sure to single out the entire punt team led by Jordan Stout, Sarah, who's in the middle of a contract year, really struggled down the stretch last season. He's a 4th-round pick in 2022 out of Penn State, which, of course, makes Jordan in the middle of a contract year. And he is setting himself up, as he did today, for a payday. 174-yard punt, which matched a franchise record by the great Sam Cook, who's one of the best, most crafty punters of all time in NFL history. And then just for good measure, before it was done, he threw in a 67-yard punt and earned the right to have an own graphic made for him by the Ravens production team. Here is a punter graphic for you. I'm fired up about that one. 61.5 average punt yards is 6th best in NFL history in a single game since 1960. He had one punt that pinned New York inside the 5. And again, he tied a franchise record, 74 yards. Have yourself a day. The most luscious hair in the game. Congratulations to Jordan Stout in the group.
You had me like shaking my head with you. I'm like, yeah, go Bobby, until you said he had luscious hair. Then I was like, wait a minute. No, my favorite was the punt that he pinned inside the 5-yard line because it was kicked so perfectly just inside the sideline, and it forced their punt returner to let it go. And it is the crafty stuff that Sam Cook was good at. It wasn't just like having a big leg and that you could kick it 74 yards. It was more like the craftiness to throw off the returners. And so it hit just inside the hashes that were coming out from the sideline, just hit and went straight out of bounds. And that is where we got that "are you not entertained" pose. And you had like guys like Pat Ricard coming out and like celebrating, and you could see guys on the sideline celebrating. Like, it's not every day that you see teammates celebrating off of a punt, but it was a thing of beauty for sure.
There you have it. And it's just from a field positioning standpoint and the momentum that your special teams unit can give you in a day like this where it's ugly, it's not coming easy offensively. I mean, it's immeasurable. So good stuff on Jordan Stout. There's other notes as well in this category. TJ Tampa not only recorded his first interception, and when I say that, his first career interception as a former 4th-round pick from last year's draft class out of Iowa State. But Sarah, he popped on a couple of these Jordan Stout punts, meaning standout special teams tackles. One of them was a hit stick. So good for him. He's flying all around, looking the part, and somebody that, in the absence of losing like Chris Board, for example, last year has filled in nicely for Chris Horton's group. And you heard John Harbaugh go out of his way there to make sure that he tipped his cap to Chris Horton, because this has been a group collectively in recent years that's definitely below standard when it comes to special teams and the expectation that comes with it. But today they just passed it with flying colors, aside from Tyler Loop's 4th landing zone penalty of the season, which had gone away for at least a month plus.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen this since like the first maybe opening third of the season, and it came back today. Not to hurt him, but as you saw here, he was a little bit confused by that call.
Well, the look that you had on your face of like, we went away. Why is it back? Like the look on your face is similar to what we're seeing with Tyler Loop on here. Like Tyler Loop was just like looking one way, like going another, like what did I do wrong? But I mean, it was wrong. Fourth one of the fourth landing zone violation of the year, which leads the NFL according to the broadcast. And so
and
I don't know
if field for the opponent, which that's why it can't. Which I said, sorry to interrupt. It leads to short fields for your opponent, and so the Jets aren't going to kill you in that department. But as we've discussed all season long, if these somehow linger into the now bottom third, or the back end of this season, where you have the more higher powered offenses, it will have more of an impact than it did today.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a kicker, obviously. And maybe we'll have to wait all the way till Thursday to when we get to talk to Chris Horton, unless somebody talks to Tyler Loop. But like, it just seems like of all the things that would be difficult, it should not be putting it into a landing zone. Like, I know it's like a new rule and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, here's the zone. You can kick field goals from all over the place. Like, just make it land inside the zone. Just do that. It seems like it would be a simple task for a person of their caliber to be in the NFL, but maybe it's not. So I would like to talk to, is Tyler Loop's dad in the chat tonight? Usually he is. Maybe he can explain it. Yeah.
Steve, can you talk to us about the technical science of your son's landing zone issues?
There we go.
You're the best, Steve. He never misses a show.
He's been great with field goals, but we need help.
Steve never misses a show, and his son hasn't missed kicks recently, to your point. He's 3 for 3 today. That comes off a perfect. Was he perfect last week in Cleveland, or was he 4 for 5? I want to say he was perfect last week with a big one from 42, I think it was, in windy, blustery conditions. Anyway, he was 2 for 2 in his PATs today. He was 3 for 3. He continues to pass the test as a kicker, no question about it. I believe he was 19 of 21 going into today, so that'll make him what? He's now 22 of 24 on the season after today. So well done. That's over 90% in terms of completion percentage there. So make percentage. That is all I have on special teams. And I have some other miscellaneous notes. I took one from your Twitter. The Ravens converted their first third down at the 12-minute, 55-second mark in the third quarter. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't speak to what we were discussing earlier on about how slow and hard it was coming for them offensively today, I don't know what does. And then again, just continue to reiterate and reemphasize the idea of creating takeaways and how important they've been. 10 over this stretch is tied for first. They were tied for first with 8 leading into week 12. I'm sure they're either going to be tied for first still or just in sole possession of first place league-wide with 10 over the course of this 5-game winning streak.
All right. Any other notes?
Got some patrons to thank, including Neil Harold, David, and Octavia Cool. David, of course, is the father of Octavia. So shout out all 3 of you VAULTRONs for all the support that you give us. This is your monthly shout out. And if you guys are interested in doing the same through Patreon, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. Thanks, guys. And thanks to all of you for spending some time with us. Right now, the 4 o'clock games are coming to an end. We've already mentioned the AFC North and how things shake out. If the tiebreaker is currently owned based on divisional play by the Ravens, but Pittsburgh and Baltimore, both 6-5. Sarah, it's going to be a short, congested week. It's Thursday night football, and that's coming up in Baltimore, Thanksgiving night between Cincinnati and Baltimore, the first of two within a 3-week span. Cleveland right now is up on Vegas, in Vegas, in what is Shedeur Sanders' first career start. It's 14-3 late in the third quarter. Deion Sanders did travel to that game to see his son's first start, so we'll have to watch that. I mean, not that it has really an impact on the AFC North because they're basically out of it. But Shedeur has looked the part thus far. I really can't say that, though. We're not watching the game.
Well,
I saw he had a big –
I have the stat line. He's 9-15 for 150 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 66.0 quarterback rating so far.
Okay. Yeah. So probably having some rookie moments in there, but getting, opportunity to showcase what he's about. Eric Hill has gifted a membership here tonight in the closing moments of the program. Appreciate you, EH. Good to hear from you, as always. Anything else that you need to unload?
Their touchdown. Both their touchdowns are coming off of direct snaps.
Okay.
For Cleveland. So that's how they got their touchdowns.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Again, we'll want to watch the T. Higgins recovery timetable this week on a short week. And I think Geno Stone had a pick 6 today for Cincinnati in a losing effort. Just a random note there from what I saw earlier. I bookmarked a couple things. It's so hard to watch these games and multitask unless you're watching Red Zone. And if you watch Red Zone, you're not able to talk about the game that we cover. TJ Harris wants me to tell you, or wants everybody to tell you, to tell me to stop hating on the Ravens.
Stop hating on the Ravens, Bobby. Bobby, wait. But let's quickly review, and then we got to go for sure. Okay, it's been, I don't know, 4 weeks since you declared the Ravens were cooked. Then, just to review, but then you also said, though, that you thought they would make things interesting. So that's why you've been predicting wins. I assume you predicted a win for this game also on Friday when I wasn't here. Yes,
I did. Yeah. And Femi and I talked about this very topic.
But, okay. Well, I don't need to relitigate it. But this is where you thought things would get interesting. So I assume this is where you're like, you knew they'd go through the stretch of winning. But this is it. This is it where it all comes down. You thought they would put themselves in position to compete once the AFC North games are here. And now they're here. Now that they're here real quick, do you still feel like they're cooked? Or do you feel like
Femi asked me this week if I think they're going to be in the playoffs.
And what'd you say?
And I said, well, if gun to the head back against the wall this week, I have to say yes.
Okay.
But to your point, and it's not even a but, I'm saying yes. With that said, instead of the but, with that said, as you literally just mentioned, which you took the words right out of my mouth, this all along in my thinking has been the tell-all moment, 6-week stretch in closing, where you have 4 divisional games and 2 outside the division. They're going to be, on paper, difficult matchups against the Patriots at your place and in at Lambeau in the frozen tundra, where I think it's just it's anybody's division right now. And so based on what we've seen since the deadline, based on what we've seen shake out around them in the division, it's hard to not think that they're gonna not control their own destiny from the closing stretch. But obviously we're gonna wait and see.
Yeah, we will wait and see. And I'm sticking by what I've been saying. You said it's anybody's division, which is technically true. But my prediction is that it is the Ravens division. Then we'll worry about the playoffs when we get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's a lot has worked in their favor too. Like, think about it. Does Pittsburgh win today in Chicago if Aaron Rodgers plays? Don't know.
Yeah.
Does Cincinnati make it more interesting than they have if Burrow comes back today? Did they find a way to win today in New England? Don't know. It would have been his first game in 2 months. So some of this is, you just don't know. You're playing the what if game. But things have really shaken out nicely, not just for them in the division, but in the AFC. I mean, there's a legitimate scenario, as we discussed this week, and as I know that they could be hosting a home wild card game.
And I hope it's against the Bills. Bring the really Bills to Baltimore for the wild card game. I want that in my life. I need that in my life. Let's go.
Unbelievable. So should be a lot of fun. The rest of the night, by the way, if you're just a fan of football, should be exceptional, including the Sunday night game, which is coming up. in just a bit. That'll be between, oh, shoot, who is it again
There's
tonight?
Tampa
Is it
Bay and Tampa Bay
Rams,
and the
Bucks?
LA Rams. Monday night is Carolina and San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Rams Bucks is the Sunday night game tonight.
Rams Bucks is it should be fun. 6-4 Bucks, 8-2 Rams. And the Ravens beat the Rams. Right?
Ravens lost to the Rams.
Ravens lost to the Rams.
That was the first game post Alohi acquisition. It was also the first game that you can start tracking where the defense turned things around.
That was it.
Even though there were
That's why I was including it. It's more about the defensive streak, not the win streak. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Even though, and of course, I don't know. Maybe this is, I don't know. I just thought that the Rams played a game where the 17 points in terms of defensive output, or defense, like the Ravens held them to 17 points that day. But Devontae Adams had multiple drops. Matthew Stafford was off his game. And I guess you can do that for every single, you can play that game for every single loss and dissect it and add that context. But I thought that game in particular, the Rams, who I think they had spent like all week in Baltimore, or maybe were gearing up for a trip to London, whatever it was, they were off their game. But hey, whatever. They probably got a darn good chance to be the NFC representative based on the way that they've been playing since that week. So anyway, enjoy the 4:00 games, guys, as they finish up. Enjoy Sunday Night Football and enjoy this win. Sarah and I will be back as always coming up on Monday for our day after reaction, 12 noon lunch hour live stream. If you could on the way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift giving membership today. Thanks to all of you who dropped by. Thanks to all of you who dropped in super chat donations. Thanks to all of you who dropped in gifts and everything else. So anything else, partner? Thanks to Manta Sleep for the continued support. It's great to have you back. And TJ Harris, I hope you'll join me for some post-game live stream number 2 coming up tonight within the hour. Sarah, you already know we're going late night tonight.
Oh boy, you can give me the summary of that. TJ is coming for you. So just as we wrap up, I just wanted to thank you again for helping me out this week. It was like really needed for me to take some time off from the show so we could get some things done around here that was definitely needed. And I just appreciate you as always. And you continue to be on my Thanksgiving top of my gratitude list. Just a phenomenal business partner is what you are.
Appreciate it. We always say no need to go into, this whole monologue, because I feel like it's the same thing every time when I respond to you, but it just always comes back around, It's a partnership, it's a friendship, and it's a working relationship that knows no bounds. So this was just another layer this week of that, further reiterating and emphasizing everything we know has been in existence for years running now. So glad you guys got through this week, and give everybody my best over there at the Ellison compound for sure.
I will.
All right. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. We'll catch up with you on Monday, if not before. And again, I will be live on my personal channel within the next hour or two. Going to compile some things, get a bite to eat, get Tilly outside, and Sarah and I will rejoin you tomorrow right here inside the vault. Thanks to Manta Sleep for the continued support of our program. You guys know the drill. When you support our brand sponsors, you are directly supporting the show. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. Ravens winners of 5 in a row and above 500 at 6-5 for the first time on this tumultuous season. But things are trending up, and Sarah and I will be down with you coming up tomorrow. We'll talk to you then, VAULTRONs.